No presidential election petition has ever succeeded in Nigeria's democratic history. Let's get I want us to quickly look at Peter Obi and Atiku's chances at the Presidential Election Tribunal. It is no longer news that Peter Gregory, I apologize. I mean Peter Gregory Obi of the Labour Party, LUP, and a former vice president, the serial contestant and loser in Nigeria's presidential elections, who had represented a couple of political parties as their presidential candidate. This time, he contested on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. I'm talking about Atiku Abubakar. Both Obi and Atiku have resorted to legally filing their individual challenges to the outcome of the presidential election of 25 February 2023, which was won hands down by Asiwaju Senator Dr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let me start by saying that, listen to this, in the history of presidential elections in Nigeria, from 1999 to date, only once has there been no challenge to the outcome of the results. So what they are doing is like a regular thing. As soon as they don't win, we are going to court. Only once, oh. And when was the once? The only time there was no challenge was in 2015 when former President Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, congratulated Muhammadu Buhari even before the results were formally announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Let me tell you this also for free and get it out of the way. Getting a presidential election result reversed or overturned in the legal history of Nigeria's democracy is a tall order. It can't possible, like my son, Sunday Igboho, will say. But will it be different this time? What obstacles could be in their way to challenge INEC in court? Or will this case be different from the usual precedents? INEC has improved on its voting accreditation and counting process through the procurement of the bimodal voter accreditation system, simply called BVAS. This is complemented with the live transmission of election results on INEC's result viewing portal, referred to as IREV, all in the sake of employing the latest technology, to reduce vote rigging, increase transparency, thereby increasing trust in the electoral process. It was not a new occurrence when on 2 March 2023, Peter Obi, the LUP Papa Mama Pikin presidential candidate, called a press conference where he announced that LUP won the election and that they are ready to prove it to Nigerians by going to court. Let me quote him. "We won the election and we will prove it to Nigerians." Unquote. Peter Obi is not a stranger to seeking justice in the courts. If you are old enough to remember, he was governor in Anambra State for 2 terms, that is 8 years. It was his decision to go to the courts when he was impeached, which won him the mandate, thereby reversing his impeachment. This may probably be the reason why he wants to try his luck again in the law court. Atiku, on the other hand, that is Atiku Abubakar, is also a regular customer to the court premises. He was in court to fight for the inclusion of his name on the ballot paper on the platform of the Action Congress of Nigeria, ACN, as its flag bearer some years ago. He also went to court to contest the election result that brought Muhammadu Buhari to power. In Atiku's own statement during his press conference, he said, and I quote, "I have concluded that the processes and outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections of last Saturday were grossly flawed in every material particular and as such must be challenged." Unquote. To clearly understand the merits of these two candidates in court, let us go back in time briefly to see how past petitions went. In 1999, the presidential candidate of the Alliance for Democracy, AD, Chief Olufalaye, along with another party, challenged Olusegun Obasanjo's victory, claiming Obasanjo was a member of a secret society and was also convicted of treason and therefore not qualified to stand for election. In 2003, Muhammadu Buhari claimed that irregularities marred the election that re-elected Obasanjo for its second term. The Supreme Court upheld the appeal court's decision that though there were irregularities, these were not enough to affect the election's outcome. Buhari also challenged PDP's Umar Musa Yar'Adua's election in 2007. Buhari lost at the appeal court, but the Supreme Court's judgment was split 4-3 in favor of Yar'Adua, claiming that Buhari and his party, the All Nigeria People's Party, ANPP, failed to convince the court that the irregularities observed in the election were sufficient to overturn the result. Buhari's last visit to court to challenge the outcome of the presidential election of Goodluck Jonathan in 2011 was similar to his claims in 2007. It did not fly. While Goodluck Jonathan did not challenge the results of 2015, Atiku and the PDP went as far as the Supreme Court in 2019. The court threw the case out for its lack of merit. Let's get back to the main topic, our main topic, as how Obi and Atiku will fare in the tribunal. Is there a difference between normal court proceedings and election petitions? What do judges look out for in election petitions or in cases in general? Precedent and the ratio decidendi. In precedent, the judge basically looks at similar past cases and their outcomes. Ratio decidendi is a Latin phrase meaning the judge's reason or rationale for their decision. The ratio decidendi is, I quote, the point in a case that determines the judgment, unquote, or, I quote, the principle that the case establishes, unquote. Ratio decidendi is a legal ruling resulting from and consistent with the parts of legal reasoning within a judgment on which the outcome of the case depends. Election tribunals are special courts tailor-made for sorting out election matters only, unlike criminal or civil courts. Chief Justice Wise affirmed this in 1988, and Justice Nikki Toby also in 2003, when they referred to election tribunals as, and I quote, special proceedings because of the peculiar nature of elections, unquote. For challenges to the outcome of presidential elections, there is a Presidential Election Tribunal comprising of justices of the Court of Appeal. Due to its significance, presidential election petitions can go as far as the Supreme Court. The tribunal differs from the National Assembly, State House of Assembly, and governorship election tribunals. A vital point for the petitioner is that timing is of the essence. A petition to challenge an election result must be filed within 21 days of declaring the results. No leeway, no exception. These two people and their parties satisfy this condition. Timing on the tribunal's side is important too, as judgments on a petition must be delivered within 180 days of filing the petition. If the petitioner is displeased with the outcome at the tribunal, he or she has 14 days to appeal this at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has up to 60 days from the date of the tribunal's judgment to deliver judgment. If added up, it simply means that from the day INEC declares the presidential election winner, all petitions appeals, and so on should be concluded in about 8 months. In this current case, this will be about early November 2023. In 2019, for example, the presidential election winner was declared on 27 February and judgment was delivered by the Supreme Court on 30 October, 245 days later. These timelines are inviolable. No African time. A quote or remark attributed to an election tribunal about this goes thus, I quote, "The time cannot be extended, expanded, or elongated, or in any way enlarged. The time fixed for the Constitution is like the Rock of Gibraltar or Mount Zion, which cannot be moved," unquote. I wondered the law is so inflexible about the time frame in this instance, and this come to mind. I believe it's a way to protect against foot dragging that we're accustomed to in our law courts. A tactic employed by some lawyers to waste time and thereby delay judicial pronouncements, while their client, usually the declared winner, stays in office for as long as possible. INEC declared Tinubu the winner of the presidential election on 1 March 2023. Obi and Abubakar filed their petitions at the registry of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, sitting in Abuja, very close to the deadline on Tuesday, 21 March. The next key issue is provision of evidence. The INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, was approached by the Labour Party's legal team requesting that he give them access to certified true copies and other documents of the election outcome. This was on Monday, 13 March 2023. Why are they requesting this so early? In Nigerian law, unlike some other claims, evidence is front-loaded. This means a petitioner must get evidence handy by the time they file their petition in preparation for the case. Section 134 of the Electoral Act 2022 states 3 grounds on which the result of an election can be challenged. 1. Is the person qualified to contest an election or not? A good example of this first ground is the case of the governor-elect of Bayelsa State, David Leon, who was sacked by the Supreme Court in February 2020 because his running mate filed a fake certificate with INEC. 2. Was the election conducted in compliance with the Electoral Act 2022? I'm not sure if either of the petitioners in this instance will be able to show that INEC failed in its duty to conduct the election in compliance with the Electoral Act 2022. 3. Did a majority of the votes cast duly elect a person, in this case Asiwaju Bola Tinubu? Peter Obi said, I quote, "We won the election and we will prove it to Nigerians," unquote. Hold on. What does it take to win a presidential election in Nigeria? 1. You need to have the most votes. 2. You also need to win 25% of the votes in 24 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. Did Tinubu have the most votes? Yes. Did Tinubu win 25% of the votes in at least 24 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT? Yes. Atiku and Peter seem like they will need some abracadabra to prove this case. Both camps will, for example, need to show that the physical result sheets uploaded to the INEC result viewing portal IREV is in a substantial variance from what was physically collated and declared by INEC. That is a challenge, and a big one at that. Obi's Labour Party came third in the election with just over 6 million votes. PDP came second with almost 7 million votes, while APC won with 8.7, about 9 million votes. about 2.6 million votes and 1.6 million more votes than LP and PDP respectively. APC is the only party with 25% or more votes in more than 24 states. PDP in 21 states, and the Labour Party got 25% or more in only 16 states. To use this ground, the Labour Party has to prove that they beat both the APC and PDP and got more than 25% of the votes in a further 8 states to meet the second condition. Labour Party got less than 10% of the votes in 14 states and between 10 to 15% in only 5 states. In short, in addition to making up a margin of 800,000 votes to the PDP and about 2.7 million votes to the APC, the Labour Party also must show 8 additional states in which they got 25%. Obi has said a couple of times that it is the process that gave the president-elect the first position that he wishes to query. Okay, let's assume Obi is not particular about winning the election. How is he going to be able to prove that Tinubu did not win the election? If Obi's LP can prove that Tinubu did not win the election, that is by proving he did not get 25% of the votes in 24 states, Atiku's PDP will be the winner, not Labour Party. But with 30 states in which the APC achieved 25% or more, Labour Party will have to remove 6 states from them. Some lawyers and political analysts of note have been arguing the interpretation of Section 134, subsection 1B and 2B of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution, where it stipulates that a presidential candidate shall be deemed to have been duly elected where he has the majority of votes cast at the election and has not less than 1/4, that is 25%, of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Some of these lawyers and political analysts see Federal Capital Territory, FCT, as an entity which must be won after getting 25% in at least 2/3 of the states. Interesting interpretation. Personally, I believe the FCT is seen as a state here. Let's assume you won in 30 states, just as the APC did. Does it then mean you still need the FCT? With Labour Party's 61% of the vote in the FCT, APC's 19%, and PDP 16%, and it is claimed that the FCT on its own is a state you must either win or get at least 25% of, this could trigger a runoff. Who partakes in a runoff? Tinubu, being the person with the most votes, will be one of the two, and the second person, the tail end of Section 134 states that this will be the one among the remaining candidates who have a majority of votes in the highest number of states. Did you get that? Section 134 states that this will be the, I quote, the one among the remaining candidates who have a majority of votes in the highest number of states. The Labour Party has a majority in 8 states compared to PDP's 4 states. It will therefore be Tinubu and Peter Obi for a runoff. It will be some hurdles to be surmounted. As for the LP, it will have to find 2.7 million votes to add to its votes and a 25% vote share in 8 more states. The party will also have to prove that Tinubu did not win in up to 24 states. Either path will be a very tall order. For the PDP, I do not think the tribunal will be belabored as to the outcome, as Atiku's bone of contention is about the process. Just a reminder, once more, up till this moment, there has been no presidential candidate who has been lucky enough to have an election upturned in his favor in the history of presidential elections in Nigeria. But hold on, we still need to give it to the Labour Party, which became an undisputable opposition party within 8 months and ran an election from being unreckoned with to changing the face of elections in Nigeria, which used to be a two-party race. We at LATV Productions opine that it is not too late for these two presidential candidates to congratulate Tinubu for a campaign well executed in the interest of the country and in the spirit of government of national unity, rather than wasting huge legal fees and the precious time of the Tribunal and probably the Supreme Court. This to us is a wild goose chase, a tall order, so clear with no ambiguity. Let's wait and see. Please, until then, keeping safe. It's Kabiesi.